I'm Linda Kincaid, live in Atlanta. You're watching the Global Brief. Good to have you with us. Just ahead, we will be live in Ukraine as the UN nuclear watchdog says there are no immediate safety concerns at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. But the team warns of widespread damage caused by the recent shelling. Then Iran steps up its military crackdown on anti-government protesters in the country's Kurdish cities. We'll bring you the latest. And Team USA and Wales play to a draw in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. CNN has full coverage of the World Cup. A dangerously close call. That's how the UN nuclear watchdog describes renewed shelling around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. But it warns if there is a next time, the world may not be so lucky. IAEA inspectors visited the plant Monday. They say all 6 reactors are stable and there are no immediate safety concerns. But they did report widespread damage at the site. Ukraine and Russia are blaming each other for the attacks. The IAEA says whoever was responsible was playing with fire. CNN's Sam Kiley is following the developments and joins us now live from Odessa. Good to have you with us, Sam. So a major explosion at the power plant. Inspectors on the scene. What more are they learning?
Well, there were a number of explosions, a number of artillery strikes in close to the reactors in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. This may be the closest, is certainly the most sustained bombardment on the central areas of the facility. And that's important, Linda, because, of course, these are nuclear power stations. It's the biggest in Europe. Most of the reactors have been shut down and put into kind of hibernation. But the Ukrainians over the weekend accused the Russians of being behind this because they said that the shelling had affected the ability of 2 of the reactors to feed electricity into the Ukrainian national grid. And of course, the national grid here has been itself under sustained Russian bombardment now for several weeks, particularly over the last week with over 100 cruise missiles being fired, mostly intended to break the back of the Ukrainians to generate power as winter is settling in. The Russians, however, are accusing the Ukrainians of conducting these bombardments. The IAEA has not pointed the finger, but has raised a red flag of warning, Linda.
And Sam, Kherson may be liberated, but it's still coming under fire, with residents there fleeing strikes almost daily. You've got an exclusive report. You've been speaking to foreign fighters who've joined the war effort to help Ukraine to push out the Russians. What did they tell you?
Well, the residents of Kherson, of course, it's a province as well as a city of the same name. And a few days ago, we were in some of those recently liberated villages that were receiving incoming missiles and even direct tank fire, and the city itself has been attacked in a similar way. And that is the Russians trying to tie down the very dynamic new Ukrainian armed forces who are using particularly the NATO-style weapons that they've been supplied with to dramatic effect. But at the end of the day, it's all about the men and women on the ground. This is what it looked like for the battle for Kherson.
Pensive, hypervigilant, these foreign volunteers are reconnaissance soldiers reliving weeks of fear and final victory in the battle for Kherson. Many are veterans of the Kurd campaigns against ISIS in Syria. Now they work beyond the front lines, deep into enemy territory for Ukraine.
We would get so close to the Russians that we could hear them talking. We could hear them cooking their food and chopping the wood to build their shelters.
Destroyed the guns. They're like observation textbook where they wrote what's going on.
Andrei's military call sign is sneaky, and that's what the 8 recon units under his command must be. Getting spotted here during the campaign to capture Kherson is nearly fatal.
Come back. One by one.
But they make off with a trove of stolen documents and Russian technology, all leading to moments like this, the obliteration of a Russian command center, and the surrender of a Russian senior sergeant, a paratrooper abandoned by his comrades in retreat.
He was shooting by artillery, he is and one more guy, captain. Russian take the captain, but left him.
Is that him?
No, platoon commander.
He tells them he's been hiding out for 6 days, then warns the Ukrainians that Russian aircraft could attack.
he says run out from here because aviation is shooting at this place.
They've been bombing here a lot, he says. He's injured, but now safe. Russian airstrikes on their abandoned positions were a constant danger for the recon units during the grinding advance on Kherson over the autumn. Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, a mixed blessing. Missing with one can attract retribution from the air. Recon is about gathering intelligence and hunting targets, using drones to fine-tune artillery. For months, bringing in strikes like this, trying to force the Russians to run. And suddenly, across the whole front, that's what they did. Run. In chasing the Russians out, crossings like this have often been hit with artillery and are a mortal gamble. Survival a giggling relief. But the rewards, they say, worth it.
Well, yeah, of course, when I seen villagers, you know, they've seen the Ukrainian military for the first time in who knows how long, 8 months at least. Yeah, of course, man, you get a little teary-eyed, you see everybody crying and thanking us for help, you know, for helping liberate their village, and yeah, of course it gets you, you know.
Слава Україні!
Now, Linda, the Russians have withdrawn to the other side of the Dnieper River, but as you rightly point out, they are shelling back across that river. Their aim will be to try to tie down the Ukrainian units here in the south to prevent reinforcement in the east. And frankly, that is also what the Ukrainians are going to try to do to the Russians. They estimate there are 30,000 Russian professional soldiers, hardened paratroopers and other professional units. And if they are able to be deployed to the east of the country where the fighting is even more intense, that could spell disaster for Ukraine.
All right, Sam Kalia, thanks to you and your team for that exclusive report.